Hey there! I thought I would do for you today just a super fast video that talks about what my exercise program, the exercise program that ended up working for me for my recovery from chronic fatigue syndrome, or ME, looked like. And it's important for you to know, as always, that I'm not a doctor or a health professional of any kind. I am just sharing my own personal experience. This is not going to be suitable for everyone. So before you consider this, please carefully research this, talk to your trusted healthcare professionals before trying or deciding if any of what worked for me, might be right for you. I'm going to go over 5 quick points that give you the highlights of what my exercise program consisted of. So the first thing with my exercise program, and this is incredibly important, is that I had to set my life up to support an exercise program, because I had tried and failed many times for years to exercise with CFS or ME, and it really was just a disaster. It took so much out of me. I would get really sick. The rest of my life, which was already difficult to manage, would become even more difficult to manage, and it really was a stressful experience. So one of the main things that enabled me to finally be successful with this in the end is that I had to set my life up in a way that supported this. So for me, this meant dialing back a ton of my responsibilities and bringing in a bunch of support to help me through this, whether that's through people helping me with domestic duties, cutting down on obligations I had in life, pretty much eliminating my social life, unfortunately, for a while. But I really had to create the space that this exercise program that for me was going to end up taking up. The second thing was to have a focus on strength training only. So I did not do any cardio at all. For me, the cardio never seemed to really get me anywhere and often left me feeling worse with no payout, no benefit. With strength training, if I kept it incredibly small and very, very light, I'm talking 1 to 2 minutes per day is what I started with, of just really light movements with no weights at all, just using my own body weight. So perhaps, a couple crunches or a couple squats on my living room floor, just really simple movements. This ended up slowly over time building up strength in my body. It wasn't easy, and my body really struggled to adapt to exercise, even these small amounts. But in the end, it ended up being such an integral part of my recovery process that I definitely want to share it cautiously with people. The third piece of this, when it came to my exercise program that finally worked for me, was that moving just once per day wasn't actually going to be enough for me. I needed to move multiple times per day. And this piece of the exercise program wasn't about building strength. It was about supporting my body's overall ability to heal and recover from the exercise and just from the illness itself. So when I moved multiple times per day, it was supporting, things like my lymphatic system, keeping things moving so that they could do that important work of recovery and healing in my body. So moving multiple times per day, whether that just be, moving my arms around, doing some gentle stretches, standing up, sitting down, whatever I could manage safely to keep my body having little bits of movement throughout the day. The fourth piece of this exercise program for me was that I needed to figure out how to support my body throughout this process. So it wasn't just as simple as doing the exercise and just waiting for it to make me better. I had to find ways to manage pain. I had to find ways to ensure I was still able to sleep, because for many, many months, exercise actually made sleeping for me even more difficult than it already was. Stretching was very important for me because no matter how little exercise I was doing, my body would get very tight and very sore. So I had to stretch as much as I could, not only after my little workout, but before bed, and at other times throughout the day. I had to make sure I was giving my body the right fuel. I had to make sure I had found a diet that supported my body in the best way that it possibly could as well. And the fifth piece of this is that this whole exercise program had to be extremely flexible. I am a planner through and through, so I really like to come up with a plan for the week and then follow it to the letter. But that was really tough for me to do because sometimes it would take my body 2 or 3 days to recover. It was just really hard to predict. So I had to have a lot of flexibility with this. I had to have a plan, but then be flexible in the ways that I carried it out and just make sure it was so gentle and so small, and just really dial it back to such incredibly small amounts of activity that it actually seemed like it couldn't possibly be helping. It had to seem too small to be effective before it finally was effective for me, oddly. So there you go. There's a quick overview of the exercise program that eventually ended up working for me. There's definitely, obviously, a lot more to it, and I go into all of this in a lot more detail about how I actually carried it out and how I did all of these things, and more specifically what this all looked like for me in other videos. So I'll put a link here in the video and in the description below, and if you're interested in learning more, I'd encourage you to check those out. That's it for today. If you enjoyed this, please hit the like button, subscribe, ring the bell so you'll know when future videos come out, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care, everyone.